Speaker, this is an important bill, but there is something even much more important this week in Congress. In 2012, President Obama was caught on camera giving Russia's then-President Medvedev a secret message to be given to his soon-to-be successor, Vladimir Putin. President Obama said on all these issues, quote, but particularly missile defense, this can be solved, but it's important for him to give me space. This is my last election. After my election, I have more flexibility, unquote. In other words, President Obama's secret promise to reward Russia with flexibility on missile defense and other issues to the detriment of U.S. national security was if the Russians did not stir up trouble during his presidential campaign. This exchange between President Obama and Russian President Medvedev is an actual quid pro quo. President Obama's offer was accepted and was acted upon by the Russians. Both sides exchanged something of value. President Obama's quid pro quo led to specific actions by his administration. He was weak against Russia in many respects. He broke missile defense agreements with our beleaguered Eastern European allies. He tried to stop or delay nuclear parity with Russia. And he repeatedly blocked attempts by Republicans to provide lethal aid to Ukraine. And by the way, under President Trump, we are finally strong against Russia. We are now building a more robust NATO, enhancing our missile defense agreements and troop presence in Eastern Europe, and finally sending the lethal aid to Ukraine that President Obama had refused to send. But President Obama engaged in an actual quid pro quo with Russia to give him political advantage. It came at the expense of Ukraine, an ally. Sounds a lot like what the Democrats are accusing President Trump of. Why were the Democrats silent back then? These two scenarios, that and present-day impeachment proceedings, sound similar, but there's at least one big difference. The alleged quid pro quo between Presidents Trump and Zelensky never translated into even an understanding by the Ukrainians that they had to do something. In fact, they never did anything, such as announce a corruption investigation of the Bidens, which I believe was a situation crying out for an investigation. When you come right down to it, the real abuse of power was by President Obama. Was it a horrible judgment call to trade favors with the Russians? Yes. Was it impeachable? Republicans who were in control of the House then did not think so. And that's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Republicans may not always like what a president of the other party does, but we don't elevate policy differences into a nuclear war involving impeachment, a constitutional remedy that should be reserved for things like criminal acts and treason. This week's impeachment proceedings are nothing more than a political vendetta by the Democrats masquerading as a constitutional remedy. Let's stop the charade and kill this impeachment. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.